Hey guys, what's going on? It's Cody. Welcome back to another video. This article here just popped up and I had to share it with you guys here because there's some important information here. I'm going to be sharing my thoughts along the way. So let's jump right into it. So this says this Utah city topped a national list for its predicted 2022 housing market. Here's why the governor is not proud of it. So this article just came out yesterday, like I said, and it says Salt Lake City has topped another national list for its boiling housing market, this time outpacing even its closest competitor, Boise, Idaho, which has been insane. Boise, this last year, I've got a couple agent friends up there. They've said it's been absolutely on fire. So, surprising that we are beating them out on this list here. If you've been holding out hope that the West's wild housing market might simmer down in 2022, don't hold your breath. Realtor.com ranks Salt Lake City as the #1 housing market position for growth in 2022, forecasting the metro to see a 15% year-over-year sales growth and an 8.5% year-over-year increase in prices. So this means we're going to have more home sales this year or 2022 than we did in 2021, and we're expecting prices to go up 9%. Now this, if I remember correctly, is not quite what we saw in 2021. I'd have to go back and check the numbers of what 2021 was, but I do believe that 2021 was in the double-digit year-over-year growth. So, it is going to drop slightly, but we are going to see more sales. At least they're forecasting that we're going to see more sales, which is going to be really good because a lot of you people who've been reaching out to me saying, hey, I'm moving to Salt Lake, I need to buy a house. A lot of you people are saying, hey, there's just nothing out there. I'm looking at the inventory, and regardless of the price range, whether you're looking at 500,000, 800,000, or 1.2 million, there's just not anything out there. It doesn't seem like there's a whole lot coming to market. And I think that's because there's a lot of sellers in the market, or a lot of sellers out there, homeowners, who own property and say, yeah, I want to sell my house, but then where do I go, right? I don't have anything to move into. So it's kind of this, feedback loop of if somebody doesn't have the chance to move out of their house because there's nothing on the market, then their house doesn't become available. And then somebody else isn't able to move into that house, right? So it's just kind of this loop that continues on and on. The site, let's see, Salt Lake City outpaces Boise's projections, set at 12.9% in sales growth and 7.9% in year-over-year price growth. That's even though Utah and Idaho have already faced record-shattering years as the West's housing market continues to rage. In Utah, experts have warned of a severely imbalanced housing market as demand continues to woefully outpace supply. The top 10 metro rankings stacked up as Salt Lake City, #1, Boise, Spokane, Indianapolis, Columbus, Providence, Greenville, Seattle, Worcester, and Tampa and St. Petersburg in Florida. So it says the Utah governor is not excited about the ranking. Asked about the ranking on Thursday, the Utah governor, Spencer Cox, told reporters he was not thrilled to see Salt Lake City on top of the list. That's not a ranking I'm proud of because it does put additional pressure on families, which means that people are getting squeezed out. As Utah home prices have skyrocketed at an unfortunate and unsustainable rate, Cox said more Utahns have been forced to the outskirts of the Wasatch Front in order to afford a home, but even those more affordable places are going up as well, which means ultimately you end up with more people experiencing homelessness. Cox on Tuesday unveiled his proposed budget for next year. So before I get into this part, I'm going to say that, it is unfortunate because housing prices have gone up, and generally speaking, the closer you are to the city, the more expensive it is. Now, that's not going to be the case for all cities, right? If we're talking about Salt Lake City Metro, the closer you are there, then yes, it's going to be more expensive. But as you move south, into South Jordan or Draper, those are going to be expensive cities as well. So you can see home prices going up there. And that's something that's going to continue to happen. Right now, unfortunately, at the very base level of why we are experiencing this is one, because there's a lot of supply. One, because there's a lot of demand, but there's not enough supply in the market. This is one, because the builders are not able to build at a quick enough rate to keep up with how much demand there is in the market. And number two, it's also because cities and counties are very restrictive on what type of housing they will allow. It comes down to a lot of people saying, hey, there's a housing issue out there. We need to figure out how to build more housing and build it quicker and whatever. And, the way to do this is to build condos. It's to build townhomes. It's to build apartments. It's to build, multifamily housing. And unfortunately, everybody wants that. But then as soon as they want to build it down the street from you, everybody says, no, don't build that next to me. Go build that in this next city over, right? And every person does that. So it's kind of like the residents are unable to allow, that high density housing here in the area. And cities are unable to pass that because because all the residents say, no, I don't want that in my backyard. So it's kind of this conundrum where, we're really forced into a situation where you're not going to be able to provide housing to those people who need it because it just doesn't exist. People don't want multifamily, high density housing in their backyard. And, they also have restrictions. The city does. They also have restrictions on, allowing mother-in-law apartments or allowing, single family homes to be turned into duplexes or for duplexes to be built. These are all the things that need to come together in order to help alleviate, this supply and demand imbalance. So this talks about the $228 million for housing initiatives. That entails about $100 million for developing affordable housing and $128 million to develop deeply affordable housing for the homeless. Now, I think these are great things, but like I just said, I think what the city and the county really needs to do is they need to loosen their restrictions on zoning. They need to loosen their restrictions on allowing basement apartments, mother-in-law apartments, accessory dwelling units, all of these things. The restrictions need to be reduced because this is what's causing the housing shortage. It's just nobody's going to allow this, and that's the most frustrating thing because it's a very easy thing to fix and it doesn't take any money, right? It's actually a win-win because you've got a homeowner who says, hey, I've got this space out in my backyard. I want to build an ADU. We're going to make a little studio apartment. That's going to provide housing for somebody at a very low cost, maybe $700, $800 per month. But it's also going to provide income for the homeowner. So somebody gets a house for a very affordable rate, right? Affordable housing, which everybody wants. The homeowner gets a little bit of extra income and everybody wins. So I don't see why we, can't do this when the homeowner takes on the risk of building it. The city has no obligation other than to allow it. The person, who's going to rent that unit gets a place to live for an affordable price. It's a win-win. So this is really the answer to these problems. The jarring pace of Utah's housing market and its impact on Utahns is why we think these investments are so important. The governor said his proposed budget should translate to about 1,100 new low-income units across the state. The 22 housing market forecast. So Realtor.com has predicted a whirlwind year for home buyers in 2022, projecting a competitive seller's market with the first-time buyer demand continuing to outpace inventory. With listing prices, rents, and mortgage rates all expected to climb while incomes rise, 2022 will present a mixed bag of housing affordability challenges and opportunities. Now, the important thing here is that they said listing prices and rents are going to go up, which I think is true, and mortgage rates are also expected to go up. However, you have to keep in mind that if, generally speaking, if interest rates go up, housing prices will typically decline. Now, I don't think we're going to go through decline, but I do think that it's going to soften a little bit. So if we see a big jump in real estate prices, we are going to see a softening in the, at least in the rate of increase that we see in prices here in the state. Whether the pandemic delayed plans or created new opportunities to make a move, Americans are poised for a whirlwind year of home buying in 2022. Realtor.com predicts more sellers will enter the market as buyer competition remains fierce, which will fuel strong growth in home sales and price increases. The site is forecasting existing median sales prices to appreciate 2.9% and existing home sales to increase by 6.6%. That growth will mean 16-year highs for sales nationwide. They've got a nice little graphic here. We're going to skip that. Affordability will increasingly be a challenge as interest rates and prices rise, but remote work may expand search areas and enable younger buyers to find their first homes sooner than they might have otherwise. The site states nothing more than 45 million millennials will be in the prime first-time home buying ages of 26 to 35 in 2022. While some housing markets are expected to see home sales decline, these declines are likely to be modest. Realtor.com said and most other metro markets are expected to follow the national trend and increase in 2022. So this is something we're seeing all across the nation. And like I said earlier, there's been a lot of people moving into the state. So if you're thinking about doing that and you want to make a move here, give me a call. Call, text, or email anytime. My information will be here on the screen. I love chatting with you people from all across the world. I've helped people, individuals and families move from as far as Europe, from Asia, from South Africa, literally all across the country, and I absolutely love it. So reach out to me and let's have a chat about the type of home and lifestyle that you're looking to have when you do make that move here. So let's continue on here. The site predicts home prices will continue to rise, but at a more moderate pace than in 2020 and 2021. So yes, that's what I was just saying earlier. In 2020 and 2021, we saw massive increases in the price increases, and they're saying here that it's going to continue to rise, but not quite at the same level. The pandemic ignited a frenzy in the housing market. A decades-long shortage, which meant the market was already 5.2 million single-family homes short, was met with unprecedented surge in demand, just as many were expecting the opposite response to the pandemic uncertainty. Now, this is interesting because they specifically state here that it's single-family homes that we had a 5.2 million single family home shortage. Now, this is really interesting because I think that, yes, everybody wants a single family home. That's kind of like the ideal American dream, if you will. But at the same time, it's just not realistic, right? Builders can't build that cheap enough. The land is too expensive. It's just not realistic for everybody to get started with a single family home, right? That's not the answer to the housing shortage. That's not the answer to our problems here. We really need to be building condos, townhomes, duplexes, fourplexes, apartment buildings, whatever it may be. I know that some people don't love the idea of that, but really that's the only, alternative here. So with the exception of, cities reducing the amount of zoning restrictions that they have, those are really the only options here. And that's what needs to happen if we're really going to fix this problem. While builders struggled to keep up with high demand, that pushed prices in August 2020. The nation saw a year-long double-digit home price increase. Realtor.com predicts economic growth to sustain homebuyer purchasing power, leading home sale prices to continue to rise. All right, so we're basically talking about the same stuff there. So guys, that kind of wraps up this video here. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, give me a thumbs up here on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. There's a lot of people who watch this channel who have not yet subscribed. You want to make sure to do that so that every time I release a new video just like this, you get notified about it and you'll see it on your YouTube homepage. And also, don't forget to share this video with a friend or family member who's also looking at potentially moving to Utah or just wants information on the real estate market. I think they'd find some value in this video as well. Reach out to me if you're moving here to Utah, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.